You may have noticed that lately we've been talking a lot about Argentina here on VisualPolitik.
Pero por favor!
And you're right, we've made a lot of videos about the country of tango. But, well, what do you want me to say? Argentina is a very interesting country. After all, can you tell me any other country that in the last 6 decades, on average, has had to negotiate a rescue with the IMF every 4.5 years? Argentina is essentially the country of crises.
Monday, 8/12/2019. Argentina just suffered the second biggest crash since 1950 for any stock market, and the nation is again on the brink of a financial crisis.
Se da vuelta todo. Las empresas bajan entre el 30 y el 50%, el riesgo país subió 350 puntos en una hora y el dólar subió lo que subió. Eso demuestra que hay un problema grave.
I can't remember a single time when Argentina's current affairs were not marked with economic problems. The hyperinflation of the late 1980s, the default in the corralito, or the freezing of bank accounts at the beginning of this century, or the economic collapse that the country has been experiencing since 2015 and which has forced it to negotiate with the IMF yet again. On this occasion, the rescue amounts to no less than $56 billion. Obviously, having so many economic problems has consequences. During the last 100 years, Argentina has gone from being one of the 10 richest countries on the planet in per capita terms to tumbling way down to 64th position. That is at the level of Belarus, Turkmenistan, or Iran. And worst of all, its ranking keeps on falling. But in recent years, a dream has spread through Argentina, and with it, the hope that once and for all, they'll be able to leave their problems behind. In the 19th century, wool was Argentina's cash cow. At the beginning of the last century, it was beef, the famous Argentine meat. In the mid-20th century, it was wheat, and now many hope that oil and gas will change the country's fate. And this hope has a name: dead cow. So listen up.
Dead cow, the latest treasure.
Alright, what can we do? It doesn't have the prettiest or most romantic name, but behind this name lies one of Argentina's great treasures. But hold on a second. What on earth is the dead cow deal? That's the obvious first question. Dead Cow is a geological formation that can turn this country into a gas-exporting power. Located on the western edge of Patagonia, near the Andes and in the middle of an arid and lonely steppe, Dead Cow is the reason for news stories like this.
Dead cow. June's gas production was the highest in 11 years. Last month, there was a total of 140 million cubic meters per day produced, which means an annual growth of 5.8%. It's the largest gas production in 11 years.
By the way, this isn't strictly a new discovery. The Dead Cow site was discovered by American geologist Charles Weaver back in 1931. However, until relatively recently, nothing could be done with it. Dead Cow is an unconventional hydrocarbon deposit, that is, shale oil when oil is extracted, and shale gas when gas is extracted. In this site, hydrocarbons are distributed throughout a 30,000 square kilometer surface area, an area equivalent to twice the size of Kuwait. There's only one problem. Unlike the Middle East, where you only need to prick the soil to get oil or gas to spout out, here in Dead Cow territory, all those precious hydrocarbon resources are about 3,000 meters below the surface. So yes, it's a very tricky situation indeed, and hold on a second, because, well, that's not all. There is another, even worse problem. In this case, the oil and gas is trapped within the rocks, so to exploit them, a well must be built through which a pressurized substance is injected to fracture the rocks so that the oil and gas can be released through that well. It's a matter of pressure. When oil and gas are released from the rocks, these compounds emerge with huge force. It's something similar to opening a shaken bottle of soda. Exactly. We're talking about the controversial fracking or hydraulic fracture. That's why they couldn't exploit Dead Cow until relatively recently. Now at this point, there's a question I know many of you might be thinking. Exactly how much oil and how much gas are we talking about? Because, well, that's the key issue. Could the Dead Cow site really represent this big turnaround for Argentina?
Gracias a Vaca Muerta, produjimos más de 3% más de gas que hace un año. Desde el 2011
que no teníamos una producción tan alta.
Oxygen for the crisis.
To continue this story, we need to go back to 2011. That year, Repsol, a Spanish oil company, announced its greatest discovery.
Repsol YPF announces the greatest oil discovery in its history. Repsol YPF estimates that there are recoverable oil and gas resources equivalent to 927 million barrels of oil.
But that was only the beginning. Today, Dead Cow is considered to be at least the second largest unconventional gas reservoir in the world and the fourth largest in shale oil. In fact, check it out. According to the US Energy Agency estimates, this deposit's current exploitable reserves amounts to 16 billion barrels of oil and 308 trillion cubic feet of natural gas. But what do these figures really equate to? Well, to give you an idea, 16 billion barrels of oil equals twice the conventional oil reserves of countries like Norway or Angola. It's almost 60 years of Argentina's oil consumption. And as for natural gas, Argentina's current consumption is approximately 1 trillion cubic feet per year. So to understand that better, just the exploitable reserves of Dead Cow, 308 trillion cubic feet of natural gas, that amounts to almost 300 years of gas consumption in Argentina. Dead Cow might as well be called Cash Cow because the place is so flush with oil and gas. All this means that within a few years, Argentina could have an important competitive advantage: cheap energy. And nothing suits industry better than having cheap energy. On the other hand, the country may also delve into exporting natural gas not only to its Latin American neighbors, but also to the rest of the world, especially Asia. Now that's interesting, because surely most of you are worried about sustainability and the environment, right? Who wouldn't like to have renewable short-term energy sources, and for lower polluting energy sources to have a leading role? However, to reach this point, there's a much more urgent step that needs to be taken: replacing coal in production processes, especially in developing countries such as China, which still generates 70% of its electricity by burning coal.
With its enormous population and heavy reliance on coal, China is by far the world's biggest polluter, responsible for more emissions than the US and EU combined.
In this mission, both for cost and technology, natural gas works like a charm and is certainly much cleaner than oil and coal. So even if we speak in terms of sustainability, Dead Cow is great news. Dead Cow is already having very positive consequences for the Argentine economy. You see, the lack of investment and the decline of old deposits have caused Argentina since 2008 to import a huge amount of natural gas and oil, which of course meant a much higher trade balance deficit and a huge exodus of dollars from the country. However, now that's beginning to change.
Crude oil production has run for 16 months of uninterrupted annual growth. The unconventional oil, which has increased by 47%, already represents 18% of total production. Argentina has not had to resort to oil imports for 14 months. Gustavo Lepetegue, Secretary of Energy for Argentina.
And with natural gas, it's a similar story. Since 2017, net imports have decreased by more than 50%. Obviously, without this change, Argentina's ongoing crisis would have been even worse. What's more, if Mauricio Macri were to get re-elected, the first thing he should do is go kiss the earth a dead cow. The point is that if this site is put to work at full capacity, the impact on the country's foreign balance could be huge. According to Carlos Ormejea, president of Techpetrol, one of the companies that is working on the site, we would be talking about a positive impact of about $30 billion per year, $20 billion in export, and $10 billion which wouldn't be spent on buying hydrocarbons from outside the country. And of course, the country really could use all those dollars to overcome its external imbalances. From the IMF's rescue, we'd go into Dead Cow's mega rescue. But hold on a second, because things are not that straightforward.
Endeudado definitivamente a la República Argentina, el salario más alto de toda Latinoamérica, con un aumento de más del 2000%.
Politics. Always politics.
One question. Do you remember the Repsol discovery from 2011 that we mentioned? Well, that huge news was actually the beginning of many, many problems. With that much money involved, the then Argentinian president, Cristina Fernández de Kirchner, made a controversial decision to forcefully nationalize the YPF company, the largest Argentine oil company, which at the time was part of the Repsol group. Suddenly, the Argentine government took over and everything stopped. After its nationalization, they had to deal with a very long judicial process, which ended up costing the country a lot of money, and also international investments. They just completely stopped. And the oil and gas sector is one that requires huge investments of billions of dollars. In the end, the project almost stopped. However, in 2015, when Mauricio Macri came to power, the project came to life again, and a rain of millions began to exploit this great treasure. But a lot more is still needed. Will Argentine politicians allow dead cow to develop? Will Argentina be able to take advantage of this great resource? Well, leave your answer in the comments below. And I really do hope you enjoyed this video. Please do hit that like button if you did, and don't forget to subscribe for brand new videos. Also, please do check out our friends at the Reconsider Media podcast. They provided the vocals in this episode that were not mine. Also, this channel is possible because of Patreon and our patrons on that platform. Please do consider joining them and supporting our mission of providing independent political coverage. And as always, I'll see you next time.